Hello, welcome to a different location. Man, the natural light out there is so bright, isn't it? Hello. Oh, I just realized. Welcome to a different location. Oh no, that's not what I need to do. Oh my God, I gotta get my shit sorted. Honestly, I need to kill that volume, and I need to bring my other volume back up to hear Eva when she's talking. That's a barrel o laughs. Eva's going to join us very soon. Just getting everything ready so I can do it. I swear, technology fucking hates me. I just thought of something. These lights are what's making it. Maybe if I do that. Is that a bit less harsh? I'll see what that's like. Okay, now that's on there. So maybe if I do that. I'm just trying to adjust my lighting. Not the most important thing in the world. No, we want that to go that way a bit. I think that might be it for my adjustments, actually. That'll do. That will do indeed. Let me, I'm going to do this and do this. They're not hot lights, but thank you for the advice, CrossFitter. These are not hot lights. Actually, I just thought of something else I could do. Yeah, I could do that. Let me do this. Okay, I think that's better. It's all good. It's all good. Celtic King, how's AIDSy? Celtic King, you need my consent to do all nature of the talk today. Let me just get things ready. AIDSy should be out of hospital now. Hopefully be hearing from him soon, getting back on for chats like this and for the regular videos. It's all, you know, a thing. I just realized it's not on my. I got a new laptop today and I'm still working things out. That's why I still had some technical issues. And I mean, this looks like it's a better quality camera. I don't know. I'll experiment with the new laptop webcam and my little standalone one and see which one I think is better. But I'll leave it on here for now because the camera quality isn't sort of do or die. For Eva to get ready at her end and hopefully connect without too much things. And then we're going to have a little chat where we talk about consent is the center thing, but you know, we'll talk about all sorts of things, relationships, sexy things, you know, whatever that we can use for a podcast at a later date. But we're doing it live. So once that starts, as I did say this the last time I was doing this with Eva, although I'm doing this live, unlike my normal live streams, I won't be responding to all the chat. Maybe not to any of it. Who knows? It's still to be determined. But it'll mainly be talking with Eva. And I guess if a comment or question comes up in the chat that's particularly pertinent, bring it into the chat with Eva. But once we're up and running and ready to go, we'll talk for about an hour, I think. Wait a second, I'm just going to try something with a light and do this here. What does that look like? Oh, that's a little bit better. Might leave that on. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to leave that on for now. So, things. Celtic King, I should have you in a podcast. I don't know, dude. You seem a bit wild. Wild and reckless. Wild, reckless, and crazy. I don't know if things could be managed. I might have, who knows, might have all sorts of guests over the time. You know, Eva's someone I've been friends with for a long time and have recorded lots of videos with over the years. And she moved up to Sunshine Coast, Queensland. She's off Queensland, and so we hadn't really done anything, just my little facial hairs. And yeah, but we just realized, technology lets us do this connection stuff. So we should do that. And we're doing it. This is the second time we've done this and recorded it. And I'm going to do it regularly. If AZ gets up and about, we'll be getting him in too. So basically want to, get stuff up on the various podcast distribution networks. Because everyone else in the world's got a podcast. Why shouldn't I? So I'm going to take this little camera down because out of habit, I'm looking at it occasionally, and it's not where my camera is. I have to remember that my camera's there. Yeah. And I'm just drinking Pepsi, middle of the afternoon, early afternoon, I should say, not even the middle of the afternoon. And I don't feel particularly like drinking alcohol on a Sunday afternoon. It's not the worst thing in the world. Lots of people do it, obviously. But as soon as I said that, well, maybe I should. Maybe I should go and make an Angry's big mistake I made on the live stream. I see. Eva and I both got new laptops, but she's using her old laptop for the moment. She's just waiting for it to connect. I think. Oh wait, should I? I just realised. God damn it! Where's my phone? I need my phone. I need to find my phone, I think. Charlie's about to crack open a cider. Nice. Nice. So Eva's messaging me at the moment. She's just getting ready. She should appear soon. I really want my phone. Ugh, don't know where I put it. Oh well. Oh well. I'll just leave it, I think. I'll just leave it. Crack open. I've got a cider in the fridge, actually. I could do that. Celtic King, you think Angry Family's got sexy genes? Yeah, well, yeah. Maybe that's it. Genetics. Yeah, I would go get it CrossFitter, but I think Eva's about to connect, and I don't want her to connect into emptiness. Because we always have technical issues. So, oh man, I can't believe it took me so long to remember how to invite someone. And I have to work out how to invite someone in the new way YouTube wants you to do it. I just realized that's also blindingly bright there. It might not be necessary. Let me just check what happens if I switch that light off. Oh no, that was my laptop. No, don't do that. There. Now that's no, that's terrible, isn't it? Nice friendly tone, and the back's all blindingly white. Oh, that looks like Eva. Hello, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, look, we're both in a junk room.
We are. We really are.
Oh, funny. What are you doing?
Now,
Are you looking at my cool stuff?
Sorry?
I was just wondering if you're looking at my cool stuff behind me.
I am a bit.
Yeah, I'm slowly assembling this room, and I have far too much and not enough space. So it's good fun.
Okay. Yeah, so just warming up. I really wanted my phone, but
This is live. Does that mean we're live? Or no? What does it say when
we're live. There are people watching.
All right. Good. Hi, everyone. Good.
So yeah, but mainly yeah, because just for technical reasons, I had to get it up and running to try and work some stuff out. But I've just been chatting with a couple of people.
Now there's an error loading. Hang on. It's doing something. I can. Hang on. Are you there? Yeah. That's weird. I don't know. Thank goodness for new computers. I can't wait to set mine up. I've only just sort of brought it home and charged it, and then been cleaning and stuff. So.
Oh, yep.
Exciting.
Yes, I actually got my new one set up after a bit of struggling. So I'm running off the new one. So it certainly seems a bit more responsive. But just when I was planning a little bit earlier, just trying to have different windows open and like even loading Facebook was just not happening. It was so agonizing. And
It's a pain. I don't use Facebook on anything but my phone.
Remember what I was doing. I think I should be on. Something was telling me I should have my phone because it's got the code for my Wi-Fi in it, and I should be connected to my extender, and because it will work better. So I'll tell you what, Eva, I'll let you entertain everyone for a minute while I go and find my phone. Introduce
yourself. This on the spot. What am I supposed to entertain? We could have a look at what's in Andrew's background there. I'm wondering if that's a wig on the mannequin. That'd be pretty cool. I like wigs. What else is there? There's a painting, and I'm really boring. Don't ask me to entertain when I have. Oh, there's rubber chickens. Cool. I've got stuff in my background too. Fraggles and pictures and things. I don't know. I honestly have no idea what to say. I just feel a little bit silly, and I can't see any comments or anything because I'm on the other end of this. If there are comments and things, so if you ask me questions or saying anything, I can't hear you. Oh look, I think he's back. Yay!
Yeah.
Those back on. Lovely. All right. Good.
Oh no! Wait, I just realised I can't change it. It'll kill the live stream. Whatever. I hope my bandwidth holds out. God damn it. Anyway, so to the fine people in the chat, for those who didn't join in last week and didn't hear me a bit earlier, normally when I do live streams, I'm actively interacting with the chat, and that's not really practical. In this case, it'll be me and Eva talking, but I do have the chat there, so if I see a pertinent comment or question, bring it up. But please don't be offended if I basically ignore the chat that I normally engage with, because that's what's going to be happening. It's
completely in your control over what we talk about and what we don't from what comes up on the screen.
Yes. So yeah, and the other idea, besides doing this live, it's because it's going to be record a podcast at a later date once I get that set up, and then we'll be off and running. So I'm going to
bear with.
Yeah. All right. So I think we're ready to go in as much as to record our serious audio bit. We've warmed up, I think. So.
Okay. You're a little jerky and freezing a bit, so I may have to ask you to repeat certain things if it cuts out.
That's happening a little bit with you as well. So, yay, Australia's internet.
Oh, it's great. Also, I'm using a very old computer at the moment. I just bought a new one, but it's sitting in my lounge room.
Okay, so, all right, one and all, chatting with you again with the wonderful Eva. Hello. Well, that was off to a flying start. That was an
Hello.
absolute flying start.
It's such a dodgy connection, this one.
Yeah, no, that was not a fantastic start. Might
No.
try it again.
All right, hang on. Screen. It's how do you put it onto full screen? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I can see it. It's all good.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to do this is the intro again for the sake of the podcast. Hello, one and all. Thanks for joining, and I'm joined by the wonderful Eva. Hello.
Hello, everybody listening. How are you all?
And yeah, quick introductions. We used to do videos together all the time on the AngryAussie YouTube channel. Then Eva ran off to the wilds of Queensland, but now we've decided to do via Australia's wonderful fast internet connection stuff like this.
Yeah, I'm so excited. It's really good, and I've missed everything about my life before Queensland.
And I felt like I
Yeah.
had to mention Australia's dodgy internet there in case there's any drops, ins and outs. That's the reason, but we'll soldier on, I think.
Yeah. All right. Because there will be pauses because it's very jerky. It's sort of like when you press plus like ×2 on a DVD. So it's not fast forwarding, but it's just that little bit jerky. Kind of the what they do in horror movies, and they kind of, they jerk the frame so that the character kind of moves every second frame. That's what you're doing right now.
Yeah. So yes, not great on the visual front, but hopefully the audio is fine. But yeah, we decided just before going live the main thing we were going to talk about, because this comes up all the time. Eva, besides having a book published called Teen Girl's Guide to Getting Off, go get yourself a copy. Publisher's advice column too. And consent comes up all the time. And I saw in Eva, in your social media this week, some of the usual idiocy about consent.
Look, it's just, I don't look. We'll get into it a bit more detail, but I think the idiocy, a lot of it is it's really not facetious. It's put on. I think a lot of the whole bullshit that comes when you start talking about consent and enthusiastic consent and fluid consent and all that, and the idiocy that comes from certain members of society with that, I think they're often deliberately derailing it or trying to make it difficult or trying to sort of pick it apart for their own sort of aha moments or whatever and gotcha moments. And it's just I'm having even though I do know that there are a lot of people out there that are less informed than I am about certain topics, I think when some of the comments I get about consent, I just think these people are deliberately being ridiculous and argumentative because they can be just trolls.
It is a weird thing when you spend so much time trying to work out, is this person scarily and woefully ill-informed, or are they just a troll arguing in bad faith? Because both look the same.
Yes, they do. They really do. And I think I sort of spot patterns with certain things, and there are kind of certain languages or certain words that people use that makes me really think troll or innocent. Just asking a question because they really don't know or can't quite understand a certain concept. But yeah, they are difficult sometimes to tell apart who's just trolling you and who genuinely wants to know something when it's something that's so obvious to me as well. But I forget that not everybody knows as much as certain topics as I do, and other people know more about other topics than I do. So, you know, questions are always good. I think it's when those questions come with maliciousness or that kind of smug kind of condescension that they can't understand the topic because it's too difficult for them to grasp the concept of waiting for a yes.
Yeah, well, and sometimes with people getting very cloudy on consent, to a degree, go, well, I can understand when virtually all of popular culture, including the most vanilla mainstream shit, will have some element of, a romantic possibility. And it's the number of times it's structured, the guy gets a no or less than enthusiastic response. That's just a challenge for him to coerce the woman into a yes.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's, so many movies, just almost any romantic comedy works on that, premise of boy meets girl, boy chases girl, girl says no, boy chases until she says yes. Or, sits woefully on the side while she makes all the bad choices and then comes to the boy next door because that's who she loved all along and takes off her ponytail and the glasses and becomes the prom queen. And, there's this sort of that trope that kind of goes in through movies. And it really has taught so many young men, even if it's just subliminally rather than this overt kind of thing, that a no is a challenge, and she just doesn't realize she wants to say yes yet. And sometimes that can be almost valid, in a way. There are relationships that are brilliant relationships that started with, oh, I don't know if I'm ready or not. But there's a kind of different process of I guess chasing or wooing or courting or whatever, rather than a sort of, I guess, a desperate grasp for this person's attention when they obviously don't want anything to do with you. But it has become this very common trope that you just have to chase until she says yes. And it's tricky.
Yeah, and even the creepy physical aspect. One of the more interesting things I read on it was a real eye-opener. This guy saying, this is how bad it is, how you're raised to think this. And he brought up Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, the scene with Han Solo and Princess Leia when they're in the asteroid field. And Han Solo's the cool guy and the good guy and who the princess ends up going for. But he corners her and physically is quite threatening, and she keeps pulling away, and he keeps going, "Get on, you want it, girl." And that's not just acceptable.
And he's the hero.
So it's like when something
I lost the whole end of that sentence.
Okay, I was just saying the thing with Han Solo's not just acceptable in his behavior, he's admirable and to be emulated. And that's what everyone wants. And it isn't just she said, no, I'm going to win her heart. She said no, he physically trapped her. He's grabbing her and she keeps pulling away and he keeps grabbing her. And it's like, oh, dude, space rape, look out. It's like,
yeah. It's interesting looking back at some of my favorite things, in a more, I suppose, feminist mind or a more evolved mind than I was when I watched her, an older mind, and a lot of different things, whether it's movies or television or songs, the themes are quite disturbing. I mean, I, as a lot of people know, I'm a massive Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. Like, I love it. But you look back at a lot of the themes and a lot of the things that happen in that, and while there is a sort of strong sense, strong woman, strong warrior, you know, and sometimes she doesn't take shit, whatever, from people, the sexism and the like, Xander is just a horrible sexist boy friend zoning kind of, you know, that kind of attitude, incel, and it's a little bit depressing to watch back now as an adult, something that I loved so much that is quite depressingly misogynistic under the guise of feminist power, and I think that is something that doubly annoys me about it, in a sense, because it has this mask on that we all kind of went, oh, Joss, you're such a feminist, and while I still admire a lot of his writing, a lot of his work, there are moments that I have to kind of console 16, 17-year-old my 17-year-old self and say, you know, they're there. Things are different on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, even like what's the most mainstream successful show in the last 10 years of The Big Bang Theory. About 90% of their humor relies on what I can only call rape jokes. It's like, let's get these girls drunk so they'll have sex with us. It's like,
Yes.
what the fuck?
There's an awful episode of that I've seen where they discover it's like a Big Brother house, but it's like bikini models, but it's like a reality TV show, Victoria's Secret models all in a house together or something. And they hack into the video cameras and they turn up at the house, and it's so creepy. And I just think, how is this? I mean, 2.5 Men was one of the most watched shows in America for many years, and that's just disgusting as well. I have great long discussions about the same sort of stuff in How I Met Your Mother, because my daughter is a big fan of that show, less so since I sat down and watched it with her and put my 2 cents in every 5 minutes. She's like, Mum, why do you have to make everything political? I'm like, well, mate, everything is political and you're going to have to deal with it. And this is why. But she's definitely grown from it, those discussions that we've had when something came up in it that was just less than respectful, or, you know, kind of blurred those consent lines and those sort of roles that men and women and relationships kind of, as a, you know, this idea of what they're supposed to be, or their roles that they're supposed to have. And I know that I can tell from our conversations that she's grown and she can pick things out now on other shows that we watch. She'll look at me and give you that look of, oh yeah, you don't have to say anything, Mum, I've got it already. I'll still probably say it, but, you know, yeah. So yeah, some of the most popular, most common and most watched television shows and movies really do have these very blurred consent lessons for both guys and girls, and everything kind of in between. It's depressing, and it's scary as a sex educator to watch a lot of this.
Yeah, and I think you raised an important point that this shit is messed up for guys as well as good. Now, we are talking about very mainstream stuff, so over 99% of it is cis male, cis female, hetero storylines. And so, yes, this is not saying no one else exists outside of that, but when we're talking about mainstream entertainment, that's what 99% of it is.
Yes. You can't have those nasty, you know, queers, you know, queering up the world out there. We've got to, you know, stop that shit. God, I wish there was more queer content on TV. I really do. I really do.
Yeah, it's oh my God, was it recently there was that kids animated one, Arthur, he's a rat or something.
He's an aardvark. Believe it or not, he is an aardvark. And okay. I know he doesn't even have but you look at early Arthur stories and he looks like an aardvark. But yeah, no, now it's like, no man, you're a guinea pig. But yeah, no, he had the gay teacher, had the wedding.
And they got married, and there were people trying to make a super huge thing about it, like, oh, destroying the youth, pushing your agenda. I was going, wait. Like, gay people exist. Gay marriage is legal. So you're just representing, for once, something outside of hetero world. And it's not like, you know, I didn't see the episode, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't like, I now declare you married and they went for a blowjob straight away. I don't think that happened.
And the bum sex was after the reception. Yeah.
It was just like, I'm sorry, but you're saying it shouldn't be there. How do people even get to that mindset? It's like
an odd idea, and this really it makes no logical sense to me, even if I try and stretch the logic that if you show these gay characters on TV or trans characters on TV, or you talk about them in schools, or you make it normal because it's so abnormal, whatever, they think, oh, well, that's going to turn all the kids gay, and kids that aren't gay are suddenly going to become gay because they've seen a gay My Little Pony. That's Lyle Shelton at the moment on this rampage about some lesbian My Little Pony character that's been, and he's losing his shit over it, really. And I just think, we've had centuries of heterosexual representation in art and music and movies and film and TV and whatever, just, since the dawn of visual representations of stories, that it's been this sort of heterosexual, and yet we've still always had gay people and trans people. So it obviously doesn't work all it's if all one lesbian My Little Pony is going to turn your children gay, how come years, 20, 50, 100 years of heterosexual hasn't turned the gay kids heterosexual? Like, it's just, the logic blows my mind that they reach at when it comes to this sort of stuff. It's bizarre. So yeah, you're right. Everything in mainstream is so cis and so het and so stale to the rest of the world that isn't cis and het and stale.
yeah, but yeah, a little sidetrack there because I want to say, because we kept saying about this is bad for girls, this is bad for guys. We were thinking about the cis het storylines, but obviously the sort of pressure it places on women is obvious. If men are told, no, don't take no for an answer, go for it. But it fucks up guys thinking they have to do that. If guys don't want to do that, they end up thinking like something's wrong with them. It like fucks the mindset.
Yeah, these weird sort of, these odd ideas about consent and relationships and how you're supposed to court and how you're supposed to woo someone and all of that really they're damaging to everybody. They make, I suppose, they create this kind of, well, it's an us and them, and we talked about it last week, I think, when we were talking about how, when we're talking about sex education with young women, it's something that they give, and with young men, it's something that they take, whereas it's supposed to be a mutual experience of togetherness. And that's similar in a relationship form. It's like men chase and women, oh, don't, I'm so innocent and sweet, and I couldn't possibly, until I mean, it's like that Baby It's Cold Outside song, which is controversial every Christmas, and I really enjoy reading everybody's insanity over that song when I'm not going to go into it, but it's that this is the roles that we're sort of, society has told us that we have to have in relationships, and so consent really doesn't fit into that role, because she's always saying no and he's always saying come on, and that's supposed to be the way it's supposed to be, act coy and don't lead him on, but keep him interested. And it's bizarre that those sort of these mismatched ideas of what your roles are, that just they never really come together. And so yeah, I think both parties in a courting relationship need to be a little bit give, a little bit of take, and you can have that kind of dance. There is a nice kind of feeling in being wooed and romanticized, and kind of not convinced to go out with someone in a sense if you don't want to, but kind of like a job interview. You kind of want to see what it's all about first, so you get these little tastes of it. And I do like those sorts of sweet little rituals. But yeah, the lessons of consent need to change so much for both everybody. I hate saying both.
When it comes down to a physical component to that, not taking no for an answer. So whenever someone says like, oh, it's not a big deal, just do a Google search on woman attacked for rejecting man, and as an absolutely terrifying cavalcade of stories, and they're just the ones that get reported in the news.
Yeah, there's this real fear that many women have when they're approached by a strange man they don't know in public, or at a bar or in a park or at a bus stop or whatever, because you're being told your whole life as a woman, don't make him angry, don't, and because that's deathly to us. If you make a man angry, he can kill you, and we have a woman every week proving that is the case. So that kind of fear of, well, I don't want to be rude, because you don't want to be rude anyway, that's just polite, but a polite.
Sorry, you got cut off again there, and I don't know how long it's going to take you to come back. You seem to be frozen on my screen, and also it circled back to me.
No, thank you should be enough. I mean, that really, I'm just, like,
asked me down the hallway. So I just could say, Eva's back now. I have to tell you, you disappeared for a good 30 seconds there. So thank you, Australian Internet.
Well, I was saying very important and very, very intelligent things, and I can't repeat them.
And that's gone forever, but I think everyone can just acknowledge it was among the wisest, most sage advice humanity will ever have known. It's past now, and we're going to move.
Yeah, look, anything I say, following on will won't be the greatest. It'll just be a tribute to what I said before that we all actually missed.
Yes, that's something. Look, because we were going to talk about consent, I want to read this for you. I searched this. This is among the most terrifying things I have ever experienced with regards to the concept of consent, and how right-wing culture warrior types want to pretend that there's something wrong with consent. And this is probably worse example, but this is the worst one I know. This is from old school talkback radio shock jock Rush Limbaugh, an American who's been big on AM radio in the 90s. He's not as big. He's been overtaken by, internet stars, but he's still around. This is from 3 years ago. Okay. And I'll read, this is a thing he said, because basically he is hyper opposed to any form of sexual activity that isn't cis male, cis female, with the female giving it up whenever the man goddamn wants it. That's the only real world as far as he's concerned. And when he's going on about consent, he's going, okay, this is an actual direct quote. You can do anything. The left will promote and understand and tolerate anything as long as there is one element. Do you know what it is? Consent. And I just want to stress, he's saying that is a bad thing.
So he's basically saying that the left, as long as you've got permission, the left will let you do what you want. Well, how is that a bad thing? I'm really confused.
He gets worse. He then goes on to say, if there's consent on both or all three or all four, however many are involved in the sex act, it's perfectly fine, whatever it is. But if the left ever senses and smells that there's no consent in part of the equation, then here come the rape police.
But
that's a bad thing.
But that's just stating facts. Like, there is nothing here. Like that. It's like, there's that meme I saw a while ago that someone had posted. I think it's a picture of taken on a New York subway, and there's like a Muslim woman. I think she's got the hijab on. She might even be in a full burqa, I'm not sure. And sitting next to her is I think she's like a punk goth crazy, and they're looking at something together, or they're kind of sharing a moment. And someone said, "Oh, this is the future the left want," or something like that. And it was like, well, yeah, that's what we do want. That's it. How is that whole comes down to the whole the right can't meme? It's like, how is that an insult? Yeah. That we want a beautifully inclusive, friendly, open society where anybody can express themselves, you know, within, you know, if they're not, you know, hurting other people. And, you know, I just, oh, I don't know. My mind gets completely overwhelmed sometimes when I cannot, I can't understand the logic of that sort of far right. Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, and that one to me is one of the most extreme I've seen, because and he expects people to disagree with him, and I'm sitting here on the left going, no, Rush, that's correct. You have not said anything that is factually incorrect. I just need
Like,
you to know.
I could take his quote and put that on my bio, and it would, and that's because that's what it is. Yes, if you have consent, go for it. If there is no consent, call the police. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's put that in schools instead of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, and that's why you don't have sex with children, because we've declared they are not in a position to consent, and
Yeah.
that's why it's not sex with kids, it's rape. And you and again you want to, I bet there's other recordings of Rush Limbaugh talking about the age of consent and how it should be lower because he's just a creepy motherfucker.
I think that whole argument about the age of consent being lowered really, like, it bothers me on so many levels, because the age of consent is quite young for, you know, or, you know, for the people that are doing it younger than I am, if that makes sense. But even if there's, you know, the age of consent being 16, I'm 42. I'm still not going to go. So if I'm arguing for the age of consent to be lower, does that mean I want 13-year-old? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it blows my mind that people have this sort of, you know, weird sexual shit in their head that just fucks them up and then ends up fucking up the rest of the world, because for some reason they've got this weird issue with sex, their own sexuality, their own stuff, other people's stuff, whoever's stuff it is, and they make it difficult for everyone. I'm like, just don't have sex if you don't want to. That's okay. Don't be gay if you're not gay. That's all right. Hey, go and live a life of purity and abstinence. That is okay. My sex life does not affect your sex life. And if it does, get out of my bedroom, man. Like, you have not got my consent.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing this fucking lunatic Limbaugh said in that rant was he's again trying to make the left sound bad. He's going, oh, if they could get consent from a dog or from a horse, that'd be okay. And go, yeah, but you can't, can you, Rush? You literally can't. That is impossible. Plus, you went there, dude. You went there.
Why go there? It's these leaps where they go to marrying electrical appliances or animals or you know, trees, you know, and then there's those crazy people that do go out and marry bridges and make it hard for for people to go. I remember seeing that thing when the woman married the bridge, and I'm like, oh, come on, right? Yeah, you're making it hard for anybody that wants to change the Marriage Act.
Yeah, I don't know. I look at people who do
You're
things
still
like,
able to, so you
yeah,
know.
are those people just desperate for attention, or have they got some issues going on? I'm never quite sure. Like, yeah, there was one about a woman who says she's married to a pirate ghost who's
Oh, that's right. They've divorced now.
I heard that she broke
Yeah,
up
yeah.
with the
I can't
pirate
remember.
ghost.
There was quite an interestingly hilarious reason as to why they were divorced, but I can't remember what it was now. But it was equally as bizarre as marrying a pirate ghost.
Yeah, it's just in those ones you go, okay, is this like a desperate plea for attention? Are you trying to discredit genuine people? Or is there just something not quite right with you? So
I wonder about that with the whole not quite right. I feel if it is a matter of there's something kind of not quite right in the sort of the brain chemical, that there's no help available. Someone's just putting a camera in their face and saying, hey, let's do a doco about you marrying a tree, or let's make a whole show about how you eat your couch. I'm like, why is there not any kind of mental health interventions happening here? Rather, humans really worry me. Humans worry me.
I have to admit, I felt compelled to look up the pirate ghost divorce. I'm trying to find
All right.
the reason. I think the pirate ghost was fooling around with other spirits.
Oh my goodness. That's just, the
Yeah.
ghost would never have done that to Mrs. Muir, I'm sure.
Oh, now there's a classic. That's showing our age.
That's all I think of. Whenever I hear the story of the woman marrying the pirate ghost, I think of that weird, creepy old TV show that was super old when I was watching it as a kid, but it was on sort of, and yeah, with the lighthouse pirate captain ghost that hung out with the old lady. Yeah, weird show.
Yeah. So yes, they really, and because that was, I'm not sure if it was ever a book, but I know it was a movie in like the 50s or maybe 60s, and then it was a TV series in the 60s.
Yeah, I just remember the TV series.
The ABC used to repeat that heaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like that long ago, people wanted to start going like, you know what? I don't know if it's written by a man or a woman, but it's almost like someone went, you know what? Dating sucks, marriage sucks, humans suck. I bet I'd be happy if I could pick someone from history. I'm going to write a love story about a ghost now because I'm sick of people.
There is quite a market for I suppose ethereal porn or erotica, that sort of, I don't know if like Mills and Boon specifically would have that in their genre pile, but there is a great market for there's dinosaur romance novels, and with women falling madly in love with velociraptors and stuff like that. So but the ghost side of erotica and romance novels is quite large. So there's a market for it.
I had been tempted because they don't give away the dinosaur porn and the ghost porn. You have to pay a couple of dollars for it. I had been tempted because I'm like, what?
You should always pay for your porn, whether it's dinosaur porn, you should, or any kind of porn, pay for your porn. That's my tip for the day.
Which is a good one. And also you go for ethical porn. We both know ethical porn producers.
We do really great ethical porn producers from all over the world. Yeah. I don't think any of them do dinosaur porn though.
No. I just want to know how they do the mechanics of that in the books. Well, they're not really books, they're ebooks, and apparently they're only like 20 pages long or something as well. So.
I'm going to have to download one day. Like I've seen little snippets and things that sort of people have screenshot, or that I've seen through various work things, and they're a story.
Yeah. I was kind of like, I reckon the king of all the absolutely weird ebook world is Chuck Tingle. Are you familiar with Chuck Tingle?
Oh, yes, I see his. I see stuff. Yeah. There's a Facebook page that I'm on that posts a lot of his stuff. Yeah.
Because his Twitter feed is beautiful. He's just like, he's invented his own way of talking, which is like slightly broken English. But he's always about real love and the true way of being and being kind to everyone. And it just involves a lot of being pounded in the butt in his world.
Yeah. And hey, wouldn't that make the world a better place?
I don't know how many dozens of these things he's published. I did listen to, there's a podcast where some different people read one, and the one I heard was someone doing a dramatic reading of Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt.
Oh yes, I did. I saw a YouTube or something, a Tumblr on that not long ago.
Yes, and because someone genetically clones something from cells from his butt, which becomes sentient, and they have sex, and it's just like, okay, Chuck, good.
I think to have not only the sort of, the balls to kind of write shit like that and put it out there, but the consistency that he puts it out and the volume in which he does, and just the joy that I think he must get out of it, that everybody gets out of it as well, because it's just nice. I like little bizarre things. It's like, running across a strange Etsy store where someone, puts dolls' heads on something bizarre, or, it's that kind of, just probably just for himself as something silly to do, and then took off because it's so bizarre, but quite as much as it can be, it's rather wholesome, I think.
I think Chuck Tingle's really wholesome.
Yeah.
Twitter stream, it's beautiful. He just writes a lot of stuff about being pounded in the butt by abstract concepts. Like, I think one of them was literally an abstract concept. Now I feel compelled. I want to bring up a list of some of his titles.
Just the pounded in the butt by my own butt. It's almost like it was written by a 4th grade kid. That whole kind of oh, my head went one way and my legs went the other way and a crocodile ripped my guts out. It's got that kind of language to it, but in a sort of it's wholesome is the word that I think I would use to describe it.
Oh, he started with dinosaur porn. I'm looking at his Wikipedia.
Yeah, right. I thought that was where we'd sort of segued into him.
Yeah, my billionaire triceratops craves gay ass. Pounded by President Bigfoot. Taken by a gay unicorn biker. And then
a gay unicorn biker.
Yeah,
that's tough shit right there.
Asian. I'm gay for my living billionaire jet plane. Unicorn butt cops beach patrol.
You know what? He's just got like those sort of your vampire name word generator, and you've put in they've got the random sort of the first day of the month, your birthday month is the first part of the sentence, and then your middle name start letter is the next part of the sentence, and you come up with these kind of meme generator or name generator things. That's what he does. He's just got he just looks at it and points to something in his room and goes, well, my chocolate fountain came alive and sucked my dick because I was going to Africa or whatever, just points to random things and go, right, that's the story. And I love it. I wish I could write like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at it. I think you've summed him up, like angry man pounded in the butt by fear of transitioning into a unicorn.
I'm gonna have to download, I think, the entire collection of Chuck Tingle and possibly try and emulate some of my own.
You know what? I don't remember if I did it, because I sometimes get stuff from this website called Humble Bundle. They do ebooks and games, and the money goes to a significant chunk of money goes to a charity, and I'm one of those people. I've got games off it which I've then never played, and I got a whole bunch of comics, graphic novels, and I've read maybe a 10th of the ones I paid for, and I should get back into. But they did Chuck Tingle once, and I think I got them. If I have, I will send you one, because I mean, it gets recursive to the point I'm looking. He's got one here called "Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt." Like, so they become recursive.
Oh, yes. I want to meet him.
And his voice, or the voice he uses as the character Chuck Tingle, is not at all what I expected. And I did get told by one of the regulars in the live chat, Agro Pixie, his voice isn't what you'll expect. If I try to imitate his voice, he just sounds like a sort of worried southerner from the US, like, oh wow, I don't know what's happening here. I just want some chocolate milk. And like, he doesn't sound like any sort of power gay dude at all.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I love it.
but he's classic. I mean, I'm sure if you want to give Rush Limbaugh long sleepless nights, send him a bunch of tinglers, and
Tinglers, yes.
that's what we call. And I think that
That's
would give
brilliant.
Rush Limbaugh sleepless nights on two fronts. One, it's like, oh my God, this decade is. And honestly, if he read them, I think it's going to be awakening things. And you'll have these, what do you call it? The long dark night of the soul when you're struggling with this doubt.
Anyway, so our chat about consent has moved on to dinosaur porn, and I love it. I love it.
And it's the thing in Chuck Tingle stuff, no matter how weird it gets, I'm sure consent's always in there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
He's a thoroughly wholesome man. But yeah, I think it would be an interesting thing to talk about, to actually bring it back to consent. Is the balance, because I have been shown things that were apparently for real circulated in American universities because they had a rampant rape problem and they're trying to be seen to be doing something about it. And they had like guides to consent, and they were very clumsy. Like they seem to have been written by people with not much idea. And they seem to be like, and it's like they were halfway there, but they were handling it really clumsily. Like it's like kiss you, which a lot of people would say is a passion killer, but it's also not a bad thing to ask someone rather than just
can I kiss you is not a passion killer at all. Oh my God, have you ever had somebody look at you with that hunger and that just desire and ask you, can I kiss you? Oh my God, that is sexy as fuck. And if you don't think that's sexy, like, wow, no, that's very sexy. Yes.
Look, this one kept going like every step, and it's weird because it's like, I think in the basics they were right, but their execution was weird and clumsy. It was like, can I touch your breast? Can I, put my hand down your pants? Something like you don't want to advance things without clear indication, but most of the things I've seen where they're trying to explain to people how to do it, they're just really clumsy and clunky about how they explain it.
Yeah, and people don't talk like that. So people don't. It's like when you listen to those radio ads about insurance and two people are talking about how they got their insurance. And no, people do not talk like that to each other. They just don't. And it makes me angry. It's like that Simpsons episode where the guy's like, oh, I invented those radio ads where two people talk back and forth, and he smacks you in the face. Like, that is how I feel about those ads. It is like, yeah. And I think that's what they sort of do. They sort of script it in a sort of non-conversational way, or a way that people don't actually speak. And so when you read it, you're like, well, I wouldn't say, excuse me, madam, may I put my hand on your nipple? Like, you wouldn't say that. And so why would you? And then and because a lot of people aren't quite intelligent enough to take out of it what's actually being said, they're like, well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't express myself in that way, and therefore it's all wrong, and it's going to ruin the mood, and it's going to break the passion. But like we talked about last week, the worst thing that will happen if the mood is killed is the mood is killed, and the mood can always come back if so. But the worst thing that will happen if you stop an action is that you don't complete that action, that you don't have sex, that you don't kiss, that you don't want. That's the worst thing that can happen. And in the great scheme of the worst thing that can happen if you keep going without consent, that there is no difference. There's no competition in which one I would think you would want to choose. Maybe that's just me. I mean, and we've all been in that moment where we're so horny and just want to fuck, rah, 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 rah. But if you have to stop, you have to stop.
Yeah.
And that, like I said, that's the worst that's going to happen. There's a bit in the book talking about how that blue balls excuse that a lot of guys give to women that don't want to have sex, that their balls will go blue and it aches and it hurts and it's, and while it does, there's the pressure there and whatever, it's not damaging, it's not permanent. And honestly, if that's the case, run into the bathroom, rub one out, and your blue balls will be fine. And it's not up to her to be the receptacle of your tension killer or your relief, unless she wants to be, obviously. But that's where it's a weird. It's part of that thing that we're talking about with the chasing and the coercion. You know, there are so many tactics that are used, and there's guilting into it, and there's coercing into it. There's peer pressure. Don't you want to be cool? And it's going to be great. And that guilt of, oh, but I hurt, but my balls hurt. Oh, so what, buddy? I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I had to explain to someone once, like, that's a real physiological thing. But it's not a reason to have sex with someone you don't want to have sex with.
Yeah, and that's what I sort of said in the book, because people talk about, oh, blue balls don't exist. I'm like, well, they kind of do, in the sense there is pressure there, and it's a bit of an ache. But it's not. It doesn't do any permanent damage. It doesn't do anything except for ache, and you can get rid of it in another way. You don't have to have sex to get rid of that ache.
I do remember seeing, it was quite an old film from the 70s or possibly even the 60s. And it's an American film, and, this couple fooling around in the car, but the girl had made it clear she was not going to go all the way before marriage. And the guy's trying to think of ways to coerce her. And he starts bringing up the blue balls thing, and he goes, oh, Johnny Smith told me, he'd read it, it can do permanent damage and you'll never fix it. I don't think that you want me to be permanently damaged. And she goes, oh my God, you're right. I don't want you to be damaged. And he's like, yes. And she goes, so we shouldn't do anything at all from now on if it's going to do that to you. And he just goes, I don't think you should believe everything you read in a book.
There are some great ways to turn it around like that. It's like, oh, right, well, it hurts. Well, then, okay, we may as well stop everything because we can't risk this hurting again. I think that's a great if you can turn it back on the person like that. It's like that sort of thing when someone tells a racist or a sexist joke and you just ask them, I don't understand, can you explain what you meant? What's the punchline? What? And just sort of watch themselves kind of try and extrapolate themselves from digging that racist hole even deeper.
I feel like with some of the stories I've been told about coercion or attempts at coercion, every young lady should keep a strap on handy, because when the guy's like, come on, let's try anal, and she goes, yeah, and just bring out a strap on, let's go.
Yeah, I saw something written down the other day, Twitter or whatever. It said something like, anal sex is the only time a guy will try and convince a girl that his dick's not that big. Oh, yeah. That's true.
You want a little recorder there and just say, no, we can't because you're too big. And I'm going to record if you say that, no, my dick's really not very big.
Yeah. But when we're sort of talking about that coercion, because I wrote an article about informed and fluid consent, and one of the try to gotcha me responses was something about but what if you're going through the motions and you're not sure that they've said no, and you'll miss out on the experience. And like I said before, that's not the worst thing that can happen. But usually if the person really is very much into what's going on, they're going to be like, why'd you stop? Come on, let's go back and do what we're doing. But I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something completely profound, like that other bit that I said before, and it went out of my head. But that sort of all the different ways that people try and convince and coerce you to do something you don't want to do. And it's not just sex. And I think when talking about saying no and talking about saying no to one thing or yes to another thing, or all the different ways that consent, sort of the layers and levels of it, which is why we try and kind of get into this idea that it's fluid, that it's continual, that yes to one thing doesn't necessarily mean yes to another. Yes to something yesterday doesn't mean it's yes to it today. No to something yesterday doesn't mean it's still a no. There are, you know, there are ways to readdress the activity without it being coercion. That's what I was trying to say. That's right. So, you know, because there are people that the question on the thing was, you know, so if somebody shuts down and says no, they don't want to do something, is that the end of discussion completely and you never talk about it again? And I sort of said, no, it's not. Maybe for that moment it is. And you can say, okay, well, let's talk about this later. You don't have to always talk about things in the throes of passion as well. There are, you know, so many benefits to having healthy conversations about the things that, you know, you'd like to try sexually or anything that don't have to be in those sexy moments, you know, and so you can try it later, and you're often in a much more or much less instant gratification state of mind when you have those conversations outside of the moments of passion as well. So you can probably make not so much make better choices, but have more open conversations about particular you know, events that you might want to happen. But yeah, there is nothing wrong with going back and saying, okay, so you said you didn't want to do such and such. You can ask why. There's nothing wrong with asking why, and their answer could just be I don't want to, and you have to take those answers, or they might have other reasons for it. It could turn into another conversation as to, you know, is there something else you'd like to try? Is it something we could possibly try later? You know, there are ways to revisit that conversation without it coming across or feeling like coercion, because you know, no, like I said, no is as fluid as yes. You know, they're both there's this sort of intertwining waves of consent and permission, that sometimes you just don't feel like doing something that you've done 100 times before, but tonight you just don't want to do it. But you might want to do it next week. And same with something you've never, ever, ever wanted to do. And then you're like, oh, I'm kind of getting a bit of an inkling that I might want to try something. You know, it's okay to change your mind and it's okay to revisit things. But I think it's the intent that comes with the question, why don't you want to do it? Or can we revisit that? And the intent, if it's to convince them to change their mind in that moment, then I think that's you know, that falls under coercion. Whereas if it's let's revisit this to talk about it later and maybe, you know, discuss the possibility of it or why not or whatever, that's a different intent behind that conversation. And intent is a big thing.
Yeah, it's the difference between wanting to explore a possibility and wanting to force an outcome.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, see, it took me 3 or 4 minutes to say what you said in a sentence, and that's, yeah. I tend to ramble on trying to get to my point. Live feeds are great for that.
That's the joy of conversation, though.
I'm a writer mostly, or when I do record, it's pre-recorded
Yeah.
and edited within an inch of its sort of, you know, goodness, because I ramble on, and on the paper I can just cut out bits and then send it off to an editor. And talking live, I tend to fall over myself a bit.
You're being very eloquent. Don't be hard on yourself. But I was just getting, you said all the important stuff, and I was able to just provide the summary.
Summary.
But yeah, no, but that's the nature of a conversation, I think, because it's and that's why I wanted to do this.
The nature of a conversation. A conversation should be back and forth, not me just barreling over and talking over you like I just did. But it is. It's a sort of exchanging of ideas. And not every conversation you have, you're going to agree on the topic of conversation with somebody, and that's okay. Nothing we don't have to be sunshine and roses and agreeing all the time. It's just it's the way that we discuss those ideas and the way that we disagree or come to a compromise, because, you know, there are compromises that come into relationships. And while I'm not of that Bettina Arndt school of thought, which is the compromise is you should just do it because your husband wants to, and, you know, come on honey, put your legs up. But I think, because when we think of compromise, we think of, oh, come on honey, give it up, but we never look at the other side, which is, come on dude, leave her alone. You know, like, so there is room for discussion and compromise in these sort of situations. It really depends on the relationship and the people and how long you've been together and the moment, what it was, all of these things that come into it. But the minute you feel bullied or forced or coerced or bribed or blackmailed into something, that's your informed consent has been taken away. And you might say yes, but you're saying yes for the wrong reasons. You're saying yes because of the consequences of what will happen if you say no. And you know, you hear a lot of it, you know, just that emotional blackmail. Don't you love me? And in my book, I say to the girls, you turn around, don't you love me? You should love me enough to wait, or you should love me enough to respect that I don't want to suck your dick right now. You should love, well, what has love got to do with it that your love is greater than or more important than, or, you know, like, yeah, there are two sides and always two, you know, sides to a conversation and two parts to it. But I think sometimes you just have to really be strong, put your foot down. No, but saying no is a hard thing. And there's a chapter in my book. Hey, advertising. There's a chapter in my book all about saying no, and saying yes, and how to say no, and the different ways to say no, and things. Because we tell kids a lot. It's okay to say no. It's okay to not go through that activity, whether we're talking about drugs or sex or, you know, jumping off the jetty or whatever it is. You know, the peer pressure conversation is a big one in schools and in those sort of conversations. But we don't actually ever teach people how to say no to things. We sort of just expect that you can. And when it comes to friends and boyfriends or girlfriends or lovers, it's difficult to say no to someone you really like. And then it's also difficult to say no to something when you want to say yes to something else, you know, where, you know, yes, I want to kiss you, but no, I don't want you to put your hands down my pants right now. Or yes, I'd like you to put your hand down pants, but I don't want to put my mouth on your dick. Or, you know, there are ways to sort of, there are levels to consent, and that's where the informed part comes in, because you have to know all the bits that you're saying no to and all the bits that you're saying yes to. And it's fluid consent, up and down.
And that's one of the other things that a lot of the creepy people don't seem to understand at all. The difference between the idea of consent being fluid. Consent can be revoked, or things you previously said no to, you might say yes to. They can't adjust. They're just saying, well, isn't that just no means yes? And it's like, no.
Well, it's sort of like, you know, I used an example in an article about consent because, you know, one of the sort of dickhead comments I get about it is, if you say yes at the start of sex, then you shouldn't be able to say no, because that's you know, that's a mixed message, and you know, you should finish your act. And I sort of use this analogy: if you go to a restaurant and you order the beef, and you sit there and you have a bite, and I don't actually like this, I might order something else. And the waiter comes up and grabs the fork and it's like, no, you ordered the beef, you're eating the beef, eat the beef. And they're sticking the fork in your face and getting really, you know, kind of, you ordered it, you know. You can change your consent, even if you really, really, really thought you wanted the beef, and the beef came and the beef smelled good, and then you tried the beef and then you felt a bit like you didn't want the beef anymore. You don't have to have the beef anymore. You can change and have something else, or you can walk out of the restaurant, but for some reason, when it comes to sex, this idea that one yes is enough and that's it, and that's going to last you for the entire session and activity or relationship or whatever, is so bizarre to me. And then the idea that if you said no, like we're sort of saying, you know, so you might say no to something one day and then yes to it another day, or yes to it yesterday and then no to it today. It's like the same with the beef and the, you know, you don't have to have beef every single day. You can have other things. It doesn't mean you're never ever going to eat beef again. It just means that today you want the chicken, or you're not very hungry, or yeah. And this makes absolute logical sense if you use it in those contexts. It's like the cup of tea consent video that went around a year or so ago, a couple of years ago, about explaining how consent is like a cup of tea, and you can't just force people to drink the tea if they don't want to drink the tea. and they can leave the tea if they want to leave the tea, and they can ask for another cup if they want another cup. You know, there's one, but just forcing a cup of tea into somebody's face, you just wouldn't do it, you know. And yet sex it's because we can't talk about it. It's because we can't educate about it. And so we've got all this mystery and people, this sort of strange kind of othering of it, when it's really not. It's just another activity like anything else. You can't play tennis unless somebody wants to play tennis with you, and you're not going to go and grab someone and drag them onto the court and start throwing balls in their face because you want to play tennis with them. And yet for some reason we can't logically understand this when it comes to sex, because we've put it in this other category of something different or untouchable or unspeakable. And so there's so much mystery and so much misinformation, and just warped ideas about what it is, and how you as a man or you as a woman are entitled to it or entitled to give it or take it. And it's bizarre. It's yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's the repression element that seems to be the source of a lot of the problems. It's like, don't talk about this in polite society. Don't talk about sex around kids. Don't say it in public. And so it's like, well, then how do you get the proper informed understanding when it's constantly pushed under the covers?
And then suddenly you're let out into the world as a sort of young adult, you know, and you've had this sort of topic that's this great big mystery, but it's also everywhere because it's on music television, and it's selling yogurt, and it's on car commercials, and it's whispered about in the schoolyard, and it's also on all the TV shows, and sex, except you can't have sex. But then you go out into the world and you're expected to know everything about sex. And if you get into trouble, then you're on your own. And it just, I've never understood why we are so doing such a disservice to kids and young adults, you know, by sending them out into the world unequipped to deal with something we know they're going to be doing. You know, we teach them how to drive a car, you know, make sure they go through all of those bloody tests and processes and logbooks, and knowing how to do all that sort of stuff, and figuring out how to, before you're even allowed to drive, you know, anywhere on a road, you've got to kind of know where your bits are. And then, you know, before you can have anyone other than the driving instructor in the car with you, you've got to know all this sort of information and have a certain amount of hours backed up and a certain amount of skills behind you. And yet when it comes to sex, it's like we show you a video of Fast and the Furious, give you the car keys, tell you to take your brother to work, off with the school, off you go. You should know what to do. And then we wonder why kids are getting sick or pregnant or assaulting or assaulted, and not understanding what has actually happened in that situation. You know, I mean, and there are a lot of assaults that happen where it's absolutely intended, and there are some horrible people out there. But a lot of the cases of, you know, assault, or was it assault, was I raped, or did I rape her, are from this lack of understanding about what is proper consent and what is expected in a sexual encounter. And we're just making it worse by not talking about it.
Sorry, once you started talking about driving instructors, I just thought, yes, what would a government mandated sex exam be like? And you get a ring or a necklace or something that you're on your L or your P's. Like, okay, look, I know the basics, so if we take it slow and steady, I'll be fine. I'm only on my P's. I can't have a threesome yet. I need to prove that I can be responsible with a single partner for a while, and then once I've done that for a year, then we can, then we can start exploring. We can get extra people involved.
The first part of it, though, and I use it's actually the opening in the book is a big car analogy about checking, you know, learning how to drive your car before you could ever have a passenger in there and let anybody else into your car. You need to know how it works and what all the bits do, and that's your body. Your body is your car, and you need to know where the keys go. You need to know how to oil yourself up, and you know, my metaphors are so much better in the book. I tell you, this is because I had time to think about it while I was writing. But you know, you're in charge of this big, heavy, responsibility-laden machine, which is a car or your body, you have to know how it works, you know. Like, I mean, you do a written test before you even sit in a car to know, you know, how fast you're supposed to go at a school crossing, and how, can you overtake on a bridge, and all those sort of things. So you really need to understand your body, your car, your engine, find out what makes the motor purr perfectly, and how to drive around in that thing till you're a fucking champion pro masturbator / driver, and then you can take passengers in there. Because once you know how your body works, you're going to be a little bit more understanding about how other people's bodies work, or at least that fact that there are things that need to be warmed up or paid attention to, or all that sort of stuff. You'll be far more likely to have positive encounters, because they should be enjoyable, and you will know what is enjoyable to you as well. But you just find, you know, the more you know your car and look after it, you know, the more you love it. And I think that sex positivity and body positivity are, you know, really intertwined with loving what you have and what pleasures it can bring you. And before you pass that on to anybody else, you should have some good, healthy, down and dirty sessions with yourself.
I think this is, I mean, because we're coming up on about an hour, so be rounding off about here. And I love that we finish here. I kind of feel like now that we've had this little bit of conversation, I feel like we should have started here, because it really was, as you were saying it, I was thinking, oh my God, yes, how many problems, because we often talk about, when talking about consent, think about the other person, genuinely be concerned for the other person. But how many of the problems start with people not knowing themselves at all? They're working on societal preconceptions and pressures, and they've never even really questioned, to what degree is that really me?
It's such an important part of development, is understanding yourself and understanding what you are capable of in all ways. And I'm not just talking about just pleasure, you know. You have to understand yourself before you can go out into the world and get other people to understand you. It's part of, you know, it's partly, we do bits of it at school, and your parents pass on things to you and stuff. But yeah, I think we really just need to take in us, for, you know, for, without it, you know, there's this idea that it's very conceited or selfish to focus on yourself, and I don't really agree with that. I think that if you focus on yourself, and you're, you know, and look after yourself, you're a far better friend and lover and worker and person, because you're looking after yourself, and that creates that sort of, you know, that want to look after other things, and then you put out that energy and all that sort of stuff, without sounding too wanky, because, you know, but you put out a sort of energy or aura or whatever, and you bring in what you take out, and you take out what you bring in, and all that, you know, and you can take that as far, you know, into the metaphysical reaches and spiritual reaches as you want, or you can just take it into the whole, there are scientific proven facts that affirmations and self-love can, what's the word, radiate onto other people. And so, yeah, but just like yourself, you know, because you're awesome. Everybody's awesome in some way. There is something, you know, unless you're Donald Trump, and that, I think he might have once, but he has the ugly sister metaphor from Cinderella. I mean, he's just an ugly person with an ugly outlook and an ugly mind and an ugly attitude, and that therefore makes you ugly and makes very, very few things around you endearing. But we are not Donald Trump, and so you have something good and excellent.
Joke about Trump and time travel, because people often say, like, well, you know, if you could time travel, would you go back and kill baby Hitler? With Trump, it's not so much. If I had a time machine, I'd go back and kill baby Trump. It's like, if I had a time machine, I'd go back to when he was little and grab his father by the collar and say, for God's sake, hug your son. Tell him you love him. You will save the world so much pain if you just fucking treat him like a human.
Oh, and that's, you know, that so often is the case, that these hideous people have been treated hideously, and they were treated hideously, and it's this cycle. But at the same time, you know what? I know people that had really unloving, harsh, awful childhoods and upbringings, and they're not half the cunt that he is. So, you know, there has to be a moment where you've got to take that personal responsibility and say, okay, I have come from abuse, or I have come from hardships, and I have come from, you know, whatever, and now it is my turn to break this cycle and be the best and most positive and, you know, greatest that I can be. You know, there are plenty of people out there that break the cycle of abuse. So no, he's got no fucking excuse. Don't blame his father.
Yeah, obvious. Yeah, and I agree. Like, you see all those psychological studies that say most abusers are the product of abuse, but the overwhelming majority of people who have been abused are nowhere near as bad as Donald Trump, for instance.
No.
So at a certain point, there is a self-responsibility, but see, most jokes don't bear close examination.
Yeah. See, writing. I would have edited that bit out.
No, that's okay. Well, honestly, look, next time we do this, I think you should actually read a section from your book. Like, you know, even if we just use a page or two as a starter, because that's the stuff.
If anyone watching has any, they'd like to hear that, obviously, you know, you don't know what's in the book unless you've got the book. But you go, oh, is there anything in there on virginity, or is there anything in there on, you know, consent or vaginas or vulvas or whatever? And if there is, we can read it out as well. Otherwise, we'll work something out to go through.
That's actually a really good idea. I ran off that, not so much in the live chat, because you won't see that, but
but previously.
If you want us to talk about something specific in the future, leave it as a comment on the YouTube video, and we'll have a conversation about it in the future. But I think that's as good a point as anywhere to wrap up this discussion.
Awesome. No, this has been fun. I think this was much more rambly and threads going off everywhere than the last one. We'll find a balance. It's good. If you're still watching, thanks for bearing with us.
Yeah, this is one of those things, you know, we're learning as we go along. And there's also, like I said, these are going out live on the YouTube channel. Tend to build up a few, some with Eva, some with those, you know, want to get some other people as guests as well, have a few in the bank as well, and then start to release them on podcast channels. So if anyone is at some point in the future listening to this via podcast, you know, there'll probably be a whole see our development.
Or we'll just be terrible the whole time, and you know, and 10 years down the track, we'll still be rambling on talking about, you know, unrelated topics to what we said we'd be talking about.
But it's all good. It's all topics. So thank you for today's conversation again, Eva. We will be doing this again soon.
And thank you for having me on for this conversation. I love it.
And for all you people listening, watching, I hope you've got something out of this, and you'll come back to get some more in the future. It'll say bye for now.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a good weekend.
And that's where I'm going to cut out the podcast. And also, I'm going to end the live stream now. So bye to everyone who's in the live stream.
Yeah.
It's been good. You've all been having a fab old conversation between yourselves. So yeah, if you want us to do something in particular, leave.
What have they been saying? What have they been saying?
Oh, it'll take me an hour to go back and say them all. If you're that interested, you can actually go and watch it on YouTube and see the live chat happening while we're talking. So you
does it?
Yeah, no, it does that. I've said it so the live chat is, if you play it back on YouTube, you'll see the live chat in real time. So.
Oh, okay. I'll do that.
So, and then you can look at it and go, oh, why did I say that? Why do I look like that? And then I
last week I looked like I was in a prison cell because I was in my room and the angles are all weird, and I just said, dark wall with this kind of bare window behind me. And then it was all angled up my nose, and my hair was all over the place. And because I'm on, all I can see of myself on this, the way that we're chatting, is this tiny, tiny little thing down the bottom. So I have no, I think I look all right. But at the same time, I think that because I keep playing with my hair as well, because it looks like it's coming in front of my face. So I keep moving it. And then I did that last week. It was all sticking out at the back. But yeah, so I hope you've been entertained by my background characters. So the couch behind that couch is like full of toys. The Stitch onesie that my daughter didn't fit her anymore, so she stuffed it with cushion stuffing and sat it at the piano and I would walk out in the middle of the night and there's this 4-foot freaking stuffed thing playing the piano. It scares the shit out of me, I tell you what. But for some reason it's still here, and it's still, and she sewed the head hole. So can you see his mouth? Just like,
oh, the blue one.
Yeah, the blue one. It's Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, but it's a onesie. So he's all he's massive. But no, there's heaps of most of them are mine. A lot of people say, "Oh, is that your daughter's stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, that's mine." She's not allowed to touch my Fraggles.
Well, while we're talking about consent, never touch someone's Fraggles.
No, you should never touch someone's Fraggles without asking. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh dear, never interfere with a lady's Fraggles unless she invites you. That's it.
Awesome.
All right, so I'm going to say goodbye to everyone in the live stream, and we'll see you later.
See you next Sunday.